Welcome to the Resilient Butterfly Podcast. My goal is to share inspiring stories of healing and recovery through many diverse approaches and models. Our guests bring incredible lived experiences, insights, and/or professional expertise, each with their own unique path. While we highlight and celebrate these stories, our intention is to inform, inspire, and demonstrate resilience and creativity. This podcast does not endorse any one approach. We believe there is more than one way to heal, and we're here to showcase the resilience and possibilities that exist. Welcome to Resilient Butterfly. I am your host, Pam Feinberg-Rifkin, and today we have Brad Lamm from Los Angeles. I'm so excited to have you here, Brad. We see each other maybe once every few years, and happened to run into you in December and in Los Angeles. And I'm like, I want you on this podcast. You have a powerful story and have done some amazing things in addiction recovery and all types of addictions. And I want to start out with the fact that you are an educator, a leader and thought leader in the industry of mental health and addiction, and a founder of Breathe Life Center, Healing Center. And we'll get into that some more. But I want to start with your personal story.
Morning, Pam. Afternoon, as it may be for you on different time zones.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. Thanks for asking me to join you today. You know, it was 23 years ago that I got help, and it occurs to me that, of course, all of our stories start wherever we think they start, but mine was at 15, I was a kid growing up in Eugene, Oregon, and I'd never drank, I'd never done a drug, never smoked. My family was Quaker, so there was none of that in the house. Wasn't part of my family's sort of habit bucket.
So the mysticism of Quakerism, can you explain how that would be growing up for yourself?
It was sort of lovely in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a part of the religion that was evangelical. So it was a nice theme and kind of put on its head in that today, I love both the origin story and how Quakers are. Mm-hmm. And while I don't count myself a Quaker, it was a nice way to grow up. Because it was evangelical, we would go door to door trying to save people. So it was it was a spin on a lovely theme.
Sure.
It was sort of like, Coltrane, if you loved Coltrane, mm-hmm. You love Coltrane, but for some people it's too damn, too much. There's mm-hmm. too much going on. Take something that some people love and then, make it so different that you have a hard time keeping up with it. But in terms of drugs and alcohol, it was a really nice environment to grow up in because there was none. I had no access to it, didn't have the experience in the home that anyone suffered from alcohol or drugs that I knew of. And I just plugged along. I at 15, though, when I tasted alcohol, I didn't just taste a little. I developed very quickly a taste for it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that I loved the taste for it, really.
I was just going to say, was it the taste or the feeling?
Well, it was definitely not the taste. Mm-hmm. In the case of that first time that I drank, I remember I played piano at a nursing home for a Christmas party where I volunteered. And then I ran down the hill to a Youth for Christ event at the high school. And I got sick because I'd stolen a bottle of bad champagne at the old folks' home.
Oh, wow.
So it was like aided and abetted by seniors. Here, taste this.
They gave it to you, or you stole it?
Taste this. Well, the first sip I was given, but the rest of it I chugged on the way down the hill. And so that feeling it gave me was one of now I think back on it, I would describe it more like it was a numbing out of things that caused me pain, mm-hmm. emotional pain. Mm-hmm. but it was pretty powerful, Pam. It turned a light on for me. And that light was, I want more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And while it was hard to source, I was crafty, and I figured a way into getting it just by hanging out more at my friends' houses that they weren't Quakers or they had alcohol in the house.
I was wondering whether you were with a group of people or you were alone doing it, but you found
that
other
first time
friends.
I was alone, and then after that I gravitated toward the kids that had it in the house and that had the ability to go to the shelf and pour a drink. But it was such a powerful switch that turned in me that until I got help really 20 years later, because I had an intervention of sorts at 35. It was a defining moment, and it laid a path out for me that I didn't want to leave that path, because when I had alcohol in me, I felt better. And there were some things that weren't positive about it, for sure. But the first few years, it was a pretty great love story. And I liked it, it liked me, and we were happy as we could be.
And you were finding ways to be successful even during the early years, right?
Yeah, as I look back, though, and if I just take a rudimentary inventory of things it certainly cost me relationships. It cost me the career track I was on. It cost me trust of people that loved me. But in other ways, I'm grateful for it, really. It helped me break out from the really cloistered existence that I grew up in. It gave me courage to find my own path. And then it just wasn't sustainable, as is often the case. Sure. It's a great love story until it ain't.
Right.
And once it turned, it was a long time that it was hard. So when, some people say, gosh, I got sober at 16 or 18 or 20, I think, oh gosh, I wonder what life would have been like had that occurred for me. But it just never occurred to me that I needed to stop, or that I should stop, or I might be a different opportunity for life if I stopped.
What brought the intervention at you say 35 years old?
I had started a discussion with my business partner at that time, and it was around the concern that I was drinking a lot. And so as that conversation progressed, I had already lost a dream job and a career that I loved. I was a weatherman, a news anchor, but weather was my thing, in Washington, D.C. at the Fox affiliate. And I loved that work. It was very ego-centered. I was sort of a clown on the morning show, like Willard Scott or Al Roker are, those gregarious morning personalities. And there was a part of me that loved that, because it was really easy and people liked me, and I was recognized as having some knowledge base for what I was talking about. And I had lost that job. I had passed out on the morning show. I'd fallen to the ground. I had a yellow tie on that day. And my news director asked me if I would go get help. And I was aghast. I was offended that she was so nosy about something so personal.
Right.
That's how I framed it at the time. And so I lost that job, and I went into the nightclub business. So I had opened a nightclub in DC called Cobalt, and it was very busy, and I was doing my thing, but I was drinking a lot, and I had started using methamphetamines. So it was just a recipe for either an untimely end,
right,
or the discovery of something different. And so it was a conversation of, hey, you're pretty erratic, Brad, and you did some things last night that probably will embarrass you when I tell you. And I got curious about getting help. And so my path was about 6 months. It was from July of 2002 when that conversation first was had. And then he kept me accountable. Like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? How are you doing? Are you sober today? I remember I told him I was addicted to meth too, and he couldn't believe it. He's like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense because I drank so much more when I was using methamphetamine that for me, it was like the alchemy of addiction. I found my sweet recipe
Sure.
that was bliss. But having that conversation in July of '02, it pierced the veil of secrecy that had really kept me in the addiction for so long, because I think, like most people who suffer with mental health or substance use, I would have just plugged away and suffered and never got help. You know, most people that need help will never get help.
Right.
And so I was tired. I felt sick. I also, Pam, you know that I have been an advocate for nicotine cessation.
Yes.
But I smoked 2 packs a day. I had become this person that was so, I wasn't just prone to addiction. I was really defined by my addictions, that I was ready to get off the stop, you know, and I was hungry for it. So I was open to trying different things. I tried 12-step meetings. I got a therapist, and ultimately I went to rehab because I found that I couldn't stay stopped. That was the trouble.
I was curious how the path was for your recovery, because some people go right into rehab and some people start out, like you say, you did. What brought the point to, what was the turning point for you to realize you needed to go into an inpatient or residential rehab?
I had become accountable to that business partner and very close friend, Eric Little. And he drank a lot too. We drank a lot together, but I drank more. And my life was falling apart where he kept his together. We laughed a lot, but I was accountable to him and vulnerable to him. And so when he said, hey, are you still not drinking? You know, cue the sad song of me having vodka in the office. You know, he saw that I had alcohol in the office again. He said, well, you gave me your word that you would go inpatient if you didn't put this to bed for a while at least. It wasn't like, got to stop drinking forever, but it was clear. And I had made a promise to him that I was going to give it my all. And if it didn't work, on my own, with different things that I was trying. One, I would be honest with him of how I was doing. And two, if it didn't work, I would go into residential treatment, which I thought, well, gosh, that's going to be such a motivation for me to fix it, because I definitely don't want to go to rehab.
Right.
I'd never been to rehab. I thought it was very unlikely to work. And then I did have a really remarkable experience when I went to treatment. Even though, you know, I look back on it now and I like the place I went. I don't send send clients to, because I have a different view of the place now than I did then. But it helped me a lot. And
places change too, so it could have been, it could have been the right place for you then, and not, not now, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
I won't ask you what treatment center that was. So
it's still around, but it clicked. Recovery clicked for me. I was introduced to 12-step fellowship. And there I met this woman called Muriel Zink that became sort of this human angel that cared about me. And when I cried, she put her hand on my shoulder and she'd give me a hug. And she was in her 80s and she'd been sober for so long, I couldn't believe it, but I believed it.
Right.
And I met a fella who became a temporary sponsor for me in that 12-step fellowship. And it was really hard, Pam. It was not one of those, I stopped drinking and everything got better and white light went off and I was on a, this is great cloud. It was super hard. I wanted to die. It was,
well, I would imagine
really
for most
painful.
people, it is super hard. I don't know that I've heard from any one person. It's one of the hardest things that anybody can go through, right? All the interventions that you've done, which are thousands over the years, have you met any one person that says, "Oh, this is going to be easy," and they fly through it, and they're like on to their next life in this beautiful, it definitely is hard.
Yeah. Yes, and one thing I learned early on, Pam, and I wonder if you can relate to this, is not that you bet on the likelihood of somebody's success in recovery, but it occurs to you, oh, this person has it, they got it, they're going to run with this like I did. Just meaning it was sustainable, and
Sure.
I didn't get interrupted, and I didn't have relapse, and life got better, and a life emerged, but I learned early on that sometimes the ones that are most likely on paper are the ones that fall apart on the way home from treatment. And then often the ones that are the biggest knuckleheads, case in point, I mean, in the beginning, Pam, I would wear Miller Lite hats or Absolute Vodka hats to 12-step meetings just to get kicked. I'd get kicked out, asked to leave and take this stupid hat off. But I was so angry, I was looking for a reason to be disinvited to this great new party that I was going to. So there are things that no doubt there are things that when I look at a person I'm working to help, if they have these different ingredients of a recipe for success, that I think, oh, the odds are better. That's great.
Sure.
But my hope for everybody is that they have a delicious, long, satisfying recovery. And a lot get that.
There are a lot of factors that can be put in, that could be stated that will lead somebody to a more successful outcome, such as family involvement. Stop holding secrets away from your family. Embrace your family into this. Be vulnerable. All of those and many, many more can help, don't you think?
Yes. And there's also a tool that I found that's been so important for me that I didn't hear early on, which is avoidance. That there are some people in our lives and some institutions in our lives that we need not revisit.
Sure.
If they're the source of our wounding, and still cause us pain, I don't need to make peace with that. I need to avoid that because it's not for me. Life is short. Time is the thing. I want to not have days in self-caused agony because I'm telling myself I've got to be in relationship with this person or this institution.
It happened. The other person needs to be in a relationship with you too, in a different way. So it's not about one-sided. So if that cannot happen, of course you have to avoid them because things don't change.
Yeah, and I'll share another thing that comes to mind as far as avoidance. Early in recovery, I was told, hey, if you don't get down on your knees and pray every morning, this prayer, you're not going to stay sober. I was like, well, actually, that prayer doesn't give me any peace. It actually causes me discomfort. So I'm not going to do that, but I'll write a prayer that is in my language that I can understand, that my consciousness, or I have a very diffuse idea of spirituality, but that I can tolerate it, that I like it, that I dig it, that I want that in my life. And so,
well, having one way only for people is not going to work, because there are, and this is why I want to bring so many people onto Resilient Butterfly, is to talk about many ways, because everyone doesn't get sober the same way. The prayer, the treatment center the one person was in is not going to necessarily work for another person, and on and on and on, because we are individual people. And we have to look at what it is that impacts us. If you have a triggering effect for a prayer, which I have a similar situation for myself, and spirituality is going to be different for you as it is for myself and for other people. But that person who says this is the only way to stay sober can't look at it's still a black and white. And that's probably what it is about. The black and white situation that was in your life before, I would imagine, being evangelical. You either do
Yeah,
this.
there's not just one way, and there are good ways, and I do have judgment on good and bad, and good ways and bad ways, and
Yeah, I think we all do.
boy, that's a very bad way, or hey, that's a really good way. Let's try that. But to this day, I avoid 12-step meetings that use Our Father, which is the Lord's Prayer. I avoid meetings that are in churches because I was wounded greatly, like no child should be wounded there. And so I don't need to build tolerance for that. I'm good with, I'll find that somewhere else, and that's great.
Sure.
So when I work with people and they think, hey, I need a workaround for this, I try to see if I can support it because, I don't want to mandate recovery like it's jail. My hope is that the life that they get or start to see emerging from recovery is good enough that they want more of that and less of, the echo of the before, no matter how enticing that was and how it made all the hurt go away, which, is a lot of people's story.
Sure. Well, my biggest belief is that addiction comes from trauma, one way or another. It could be multiple trauma, it could be, a big trauma that has occurred, whatever that trauma may be. And it is, there's abandonment of somebody or whatever that may be. That's where it comes from, the loneliness or the fear or the pain of emotional pain, right? So what brought you into starting to do interventions? And you have intervention.com that you also founded, and Break Free intervention training. What brought you into doing interventions and the style of interventions that you do for yourself, for you?
I think that one of the things that I love the most about growing up in the Quaker theology or community, it's very community based, is the notion of service and reaching out your hand to a person who's suffering, and that maybe that's the highest calling. I think had I not been an alcoholic, an addict, I would have gone into I don't know, I probably wouldn't have been a pastor. My father and a couple of my brothers are pastors. It's like a Lamm family thing. I don't know that I would have done that, but I bet I would have been something more similar to my dad than I am. But I think I had a gentle nudging of spirit. That's how I think of it now. And I don't even know exactly what that means, other than I felt a tug, like, oh, I want to do that. I want to see if I can do that. And maybe, Pam, it wasn't spiritual at all. Maybe it was just the boomerang of having wasted in my mind as a person in early recovery. I was at 35, thinking, gosh, I've wasted so much time. What might I do that will give me value? And doing interventions and learning that work, it gave me the framework to get involved and do something. And I felt great doing it. It was high intensity. It was rewarding. It was beautiful and fun. Interventions don't stress me out, actually. I love the work. And so I took to it and I thought, this is pretty great. It was not my first job in recovery, though. Meaning, when I got into recovery, I had another job. I started a school food business in DC. I had this nightclub with a commercial kitchen, and I had read in the Washington Post about how charter schools were having a really hard time getting nutritious meals catered. And so that was my first. Wow. It wasn't a boondoggle, because it was successful and I was able to sell it. But the best part about it was it let me go to lots of 12-step meetings. and I would go to work at 4 a.m. and I'd be done by noon, and I'd go to bed early. And it was a good schedule for me to have some success, but also stay the track.
Sure.
It forced me not to be a vampire, living that sort of night focused life.
How soon after treatment did you start this?
Literally on the plane, because I'm that way. I was flying home.
You're such a creator. It's amazing.
Thinking, what in the world am I going to do with my life if I go back to the nightclub and do that? I built that office so that I could do drugs with impunity, and I built that bathroom so that people couldn't hear me snorting methamphetamine. And I knew that if I went back into that, and my recovery was super tenuous. I did not feel firm in it. It did not feel like it had legs on it yet. I thought, well, gosh, what could I do? And I knew I had this commercial kitchen, and I thought, well, I could try that. And so I wrote a bid for it and got my first school.
That's
and
incredible.
Soon after had 3 schools and 5 schools, and it was so not glorious, but it felt really good because most of the kids that ate the breakfast, lunch, and snack were brown or black. They were getting free or reduced lunches and meals, and that was the majority of their meals was at the school. So in that way, it felt really good. I felt good. I like kids too, so getting to deliver and be involved in the actual experience of doing that felt good. And then I, at some point, and it was only maybe 18 months into it, Pam, I thought, okay, enough of this. What might I do next? Because I did want a life that was not getting up at 3 a.m.
Sure.
And I wanted something different. And so I was.
It still was isolating, though, wasn't it?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful, though, I got to say. I've never talked about that part of my recovery. And it really was it was such a great recovery job for me, early recovery job.
And you created it yourself instead of someone saying, hey, go down to the laundromat and work the desk at the laundromat or whatever that may be for us.
Today, a colleague asked to have breakfast with me, so I caught up with him. And at the end of the breakfast, what he really wanted to ask me was, should I open a treatment center? And I'm thinking of opening a treatment center, he told me. And I thought, oh my gosh, tell him no, whatever you do, don't do it. but I understand the impulse for sure.
Sure.
But it's that beautiful part of remaking life where you have a blank slate in some ways. If you do, some people don't have a blank slate. I had no inheritance. I didn't have a trust fund. I was scrappy. I'm still scrappy. Less scrappy, but scrappy.
So when did you talk about treatment centers? When did you found Breathe Life Healing Center? How long has that been?
That was about 14 years ago. And then 54-bed subacute residential center that takes insurance, treats mostly women and queer people, which is important to me. And we treated over 6,000 patients. And it's the best part.
In a beautiful setting.
It's the best thing I've ever been part of. Do
you remember the day that I came to see you there?
It feels like it was 3 minutes ago.
I know. It was, I believe, in January of 2015. I could have it totally wrong, but coming from Orange County from a funeral of a friend's son who died of an overdose, and one of the young men was there who was also addicted, and you said if he was willing to come, I'll scholarship him. And
I forgot that, Pam.
Yeah.
I forgot that part of it.
And then
I always forget the good part.
What blew me away was everything fell in place. So I was eventually, he didn't want to go initially until he was put in a motel by his father and say, this is the end, this is all you've got, and $100 or whatever. and he reached out to someone who called me and said he's ready. And then I called you and you said he needs detox. And I was able to find within 30 minutes a detox center in Orange County that took him and detoxed him. And then he came to your center. So there, talk about the spiritual life of what happens sometimes in this mental health and addiction. This was definitely all because I was out there I don't live in Los Angeles, but a lot of beautiful things have happened in Los Angeles, including that. And I was so impressed by you being able to immediately said, without question, I'll scholarship him. So I just wanted to bring that up. And
thanks. I appreciate you reminding me of that. I remember it now. I remember you visiting, but I didn't remember that part of the story. I'm really good at forgetting things, which is good in some ways too. I don't hold grudges because I forget that I'm supposed to have a grudge really so often. But having said all that, and there were thousands of those moments, Pam, that I could, if I remembered all of them, they were touchstones of just like the divinity of the universe, like the goodness of the universe and the best of people. And I'm so grateful that I got to have that experience. And it really derailed me or put me on another path for 14 years. And my primary work, and I'd written 2 books already by the time I opened Breathe in 2013, had been invitational intervention. And I thought that was really my path. And I was struck, though, by the lack of a treatment option for trauma work that took insurance. And that it was really that simple. That was the thing that it was so easy to create a treatment experience for people that were resourced and for people dependent on insurance.
Sure.
It was hard. And so Breathe came out of that deficit just in my day-to-day work. And it was a wonderful sidetrack. And when I sold it September 17th, 2025, it was an incredible exhale too. I was no longer the employer of 50 full-time employees. I was no longer the person in charge when the huge campus in Laurel Canyon with 10 homes needed to be evacuated because of a mudslide or a wildfire on Christmas Eve, or,
right.
Just all the stuff that is normal life stuff that we get to do day to day. So I was so grateful to have been part of it and so grateful to have it live on really with a group that is probably much better at operating than I am, and just in terms of the nuts and bolts of the financial part and the insurance part. But wow, it's very sweet that I appreciate that you brought that story up. There's so many stories like that
I'm sure.
Just remind me.
I have another one that is quite interesting because I actually just remembered it this morning that you were trying to create a treatment center in Detroit.
Oh, yes.
And you were...
Wah, wah, wah.
And unfortunately, these people just couldn't wrap their heads around having treatment or having a home that people were living in to go to treatment in the neighborhood of Detroit. But I was so excited.
And it wasn't just any home.
I know.
It was the Fisher Mansion,
I'm
the
glad
largest
you said that.
home in Detroit, in the Palmerwood neighborhood.
Swimming pool inside, right?
Yeah, and that was such a failure, but...
You kept trying.
I met some people like you, and I met Stephanie Christie, and I got closer with Jeff and Deborah J. And there were other people that I met there too, including a family that saw the story in the Detroit. You think of Detroit 10 years ago, and it was parts that were uninhabitable, and you think, really, they didn't want to rehab?
Right.
But the headline was "New Age Entrepreneur Trying to, make a rehab in Tony neighborhood," and I bumped up against what many people bump up against, which is that neighborhoods that don't want their property value and quality of life to be negatively impacted. And so but the headline in the paper had a family reach out then, and they said, hey, could you help our daughter? She's been missing. And
that's right. So that's part of the story that I remembered this morning. And one of our employees, Karen, went with you to looking for her on the streets.
That. Yes, because Karen knew the layout of downtown and the stroll, like the tenderloin sort of Detroit, more than I did. I didn't know it at all. And we went out, and it was a snowstorm, and we scooped that girl up, and she was a precious person that had a child, and her life had fallen apart because of addiction, and trauma. And like maybe.
Where did you end up taking her to? Breathe?
I sent her to Breathe on scholarship, and there were times when that failed, the business venture failed, that I thought it was just for her. Like maybe it was just so that family could, taste recovery.
Yeah.
And that, but there's so many of those stories that that speaks to the value of what we do with our time. And Breathe was such a gift to me, and 97% less stress since I sold it. So
I can only imagine.
I went all gray since you met me, and I'm so grateful for it.
Sure.
And even the emotion that I just had, if I had gone with it, I would have really given you a flood of tears. But it's gosh, I do not have to question if I've done something important with my life now.
No, absolutely.
I've gotten no awards. Not important like that. Like my husband has won awards. I am not an award winner, but I feel I'm my father's son. I feel so grateful to have the life that I have today. So, thank you for reminding me of that.
I will send you some award. I will figure this out.
I don't mean that as a.
I know you don't.
But it sure feels good. And
your husband is in a different environment, a whole different,
thank God.
Show business is a little bit different than you get awards for it. So
yeah, fair enough. But I also met Steve Feldman. I made some beautiful relationships from that failure, and But thank you for reminding me of that particular story.
And we were doing the intervention training for Break Free at Wayne State at campus at the time too.
Oh, that's right.
There's a lot of memories here that I come flooding back with. And your training is so much different, because what I felt in your training is that you really deep dive into your own family history to see how it impacted my life, my family tree. When I looked at that, I had a break free event or breakthrough of like, oh my goodness, what, now I can look at it in the tree, not the tree behind you, but
family tree.
The family tree.
Yeah.
But having the invitation for families to embrace what has happened without shame and learn from it and be able to break through it and be able to have a beautiful life in front of them. So your training and your way about having interventions was impactful on Feinberg Consulting, because of just being there and having that ability to really see through a different lens of things.
Right on.
And there's so many different ways that people do intervention, and it's their style. And our style.
But there is a good way and a bad way.
I wasn't going to say that, but
there is a snatch and grab way and a very volatile, increasing intensity way. And so the way that I learned it was from a remarkable series of studies from the University of Pennsylvania and Judith Landau, who's one of the original authors, with James Garrett. And they shared their work with me, and it became my life's work. Really, I find no higher calling than helping a family.
Sure.
Doing away with some of the myths that we get stuck on, like a person has to want the help for them to get the help.
Right.
They have to hit rock bottom. Oh my God, if I hear rock bottom, if I hear another story telling me why they need to stay stopped because their loved one needs.
Right. Rock bottom to me is, it ultimately can be death. And a lot of times is death based on the drugs that are being utilized right now, or for a decade at least, or 2 decades maybe. But
there's this drug called xylazine, Pam, and I had never encountered it. I'd read about it. Its street name is Trank, but it's an opioid-like agonist that often has fentanyl in it, but it's known for dissolving the skin on your limbs. And I remember reading about it maybe 5 or 6 years ago in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. It was popping up, and then in Philly. And I thought, why would anybody do that drug if they had any opportunity to do something better, like heroin? It gives you a high, but doesn't make your legs get amputated. Right. And so I had my first case last week in San Francisco, and it was so interesting to get to know the drug. And not personally get to know it, but to learn more about it. And all it does is, it gives a great high, and it's super addictive, and the detox is really hard, and it depletes oxygen supply to your extremities, to the skin. And so for years I thought, gosh, how does that drug do that to you? What are people doing with it? And they're just smoking it. And that's
very
one of the
similar to huffing, right? Where people are huffing and they're losing their ability their brain function, so that they literally are in wheelchairs because they can't walk or they can't talk.
Yeah.
I mean, why would people? But that shows you how powerful addiction
is. It sure feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except when it doesn't.
Except when it doesn't, and you end your life.
It makes me think of, like, the first time I drank, I told you about. The best time I drank, I remember it. I had cases of alcohol that was misdelivered for a party to my house. I was supposed to get 7 bottles each of Dewar's, Absolute, like a group of 150 bottles were accidentally delivered instead of 10.
Wow.
And I remember I felt so safe. And I remember sitting in my living room and thinking, oh my God, this will last me all year. And then the last time I drank, first time, the best time, the last time was on a flight flying to rehab. And I ordered 2 double Bloody Marys. And there was a little boy sitting next to me. And when the flight attendant brought me the little alcohol bottles, he went, and I said, and I thought, wow, it's me just drinking here. And I wonder if this will be the last. And that wasn't the last so far.
Wow.
23 years ago.
So now what, Brad?
Oh, gosh. Just do an intervention again and enjoying that more as a advocate, as my main focus, but also reading again, like having a hobby. I've started taking music lessons, which is a thing for me. I like it.
That's great.
And
I used to play the piano myself many years ago.
I play the piano, but I've always wanted to. I've had a native flute that I've wanted to learn to play well for a few years. So I just started lessons for that, and just simpler, quieter.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's my goal.
Well, those are really nice goals. You deserve it, and I hope that you can continue to stay connected, despite the fact that you're taking music lessons, and not even despite, because I'm doing the things that I enjoy as well. And it comes a time when we all can take a breath and relieve and sit and be able to be at peace with what we've already done and don't have to do anything more than be in our life. So I honor you. Thank you. Thank you for joining the conversation today. If you are seeking help for yourself or a loved one, please reach out to our Feinberg Consulting team at 248-538-5425. That's 248-538-5425, and check out our website at feinbergcare.com. I'm grateful for our guests and all who have joined us today. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.